The most wonderful, influential black man that I know is my father, Joe Lomax. He is a loving husband, father of 4 children, and a devoted family man. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. My dad was the first black police officer at the Beloit, Wisconsin Police Department in 1963, which was during the heat of the Civil Rights Movement. I remember him coming to my classroom in elementary school as a guest police officer and turning on the flashing light of the police car for my classmates to see. I beamed with pride because that was my dad. It wasn't until I was an adult that I learned about the degradation and racial abuse he suffered through while he was on the police force. But he took the pain and turned it into his passion and purpose.
If police officers are described as a city's finest, then Joe Lomax is the finest of the finest in the city of Beloit. Lomax readily admits that becoming Beloit's first black police officer in 1963 would be next to impossible without assistance from a few key individuals in the department. Lomax made the belief, the patience, and the integrity his accomplishments demanded look easy as he defied the racial policies of law enforcement personnel.
Prior to my coming on, you could pass your probation in 6 months. When I came on, probation was extended to 1 year. So at the end of my 1 year, the chief, I came in from nights, I was riding night shift. At the end of my 1 year, the chief invited me in, and along with the captain, and congratulated me and gave me my certificate and told me I had made the year. So, I was really happy about that, of course, successfully completing my probation. But as we were walking out, my captain turned to me just after we got outside the chief's door, and he says, "Well, I guess I'll have to sign your certificate since the chief already said you passed." In 1963, after I graduated from UW-Stevens Point, I applied at Beloit Police Department, and it had been rumored in the black community that Chief Griffin had stated that as long as he was chief, there would be no black persons on the police department. Now, they didn't always say it that way, but that was, in fact, the message. And so he did do the initial background screening on me, and one of the key things that he wanted to know was who put me up to applying. When I was applying, there were approximately 60 predominantly Catholic white officers on the department and no persons of color. So he wanted to know why I was applying and who I was affiliated with and who I associated with and all of those questions. And he did the background check on me. And then he did, in looking at my references, he called me back down to his office and invited me in. And he slammed down a set of papers that was probably 3/4 of an inch thick, and he told me that he said that either you're a real good guy, or he says these are a damn good bunch of liars. And so that was, he said, because I couldn't find anything wrong with you. My first assignment was to walk the beat downtown, and I was hired in June, and so I was supposed to walk the beat, fully uniformed and everything else, and it was fine with me. So I got out to walk the beat, and I found out that I created quite a disturbance walking the beat in my uniform as a police officer. And I found that upon going into one of the taverns, it was a place where no black person, African American, had apparently been in, because I really walked into some hostility. There were a number of persons who were in the tavern who I shouldn't say greeted me, who immediately responded to me by saying, "What the hell's he doing in here?" And the bartender told him to cool out, that I was in fact the new police officer in town, and they should get used to it, and that I was doing my job. That made me aware of the kind of confrontations that I was about to encounter numerous times over in various places, because I would be going into places where traditionally black persons had been prohibited. There were a number of officers that didn't want to ride with me. It was known that there were a number of officers that did not want to ride with this new black officer, period. And so I was placed with an officer, field training officer, finally. And upon, this is my first time out, before we got into the squad car, he said he had 3 rules. The first rule was I shouldn't touch the steering wheel of the squad car with the intent to drive. That was the first rule. Second rule was we always go for coffee before the supervisor comes out. Okay. And the third rule was that we make the same amount of money if we don't do anything as if we go trying to look up trouble.
Instead of letting fellow officers discourage him, Lomax let diligence and devotion to the department speak for him by hitting the books. 2 years into his career, Joe Lomax passed the sergeant's exam and was promoted as the first black officer to earn the position of sergeant.
Because there were a number of persons who initially did not want to be paired with me and everything, I really got into the books in terms of learning the traffic laws. Upon getting that, I found that a few of the officers resigned from the department as a result of that. And a number of them had vowed not to take orders from me, even if I was a supervisor. But to the chief's credit, they would in fact take orders from me because I was the new supervisor and an extension of his power, and so that they would do that. So as a result, they did, but it was it was not voluntary. It was tough in Beloit, and especially tough for me because many of the times, as a police officer, you're supposed to be neutral. It was a real challenge. Being first was a real challenge.
He left the Beloit Police Department in 1969 to help develop the Police Science Criminal Justice Program at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville. In 1972, he earned his Master of Arts degree at University of Platteville, and he became the first black professor at the predominantly white university. A scholarship was established in his name. Also, the Joe Lomax Criminal Justice Scholarship was established to honor Professor Lomax for his service in helping develop the criminal justice program. He taught at the university for 38 years, and during his tenure, he served as advisor to the Student Criminal Justice Association. He established the Criminal Justice Career Day, Internship Program, CJ Advisory Board, Law Enforcement Training Academy, Employment Search Workshop, and initiated the Criminal Justice Master of Science and undergraduate online programs, Forensic Investigations, and the Racial Disparity in Criminal Justice and Education Task Force. The most valuable lessons that I learned from my dad is the importance of education, character, integrity, and perseverance. He's now retired at age 81 and enjoys spending time with our family and doing wood carvings as a hobby. I'm sad that he had suffered so much disrespect and abuse. I am grateful for his example of courage and integrity in the face of that. My life and our world is a better place because of men and women like my dad. Thank you, Dad.